Chapter 13:14. Purchasing Divine Deer Fruits. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. Southern Border, Wu Clan. In a secret cultivation room, Fang Yuan was floating in the air, his expression solemn. His long hair was fluttering in the air, and all kinds of goo-worm auras rose from his body, mixing with each other. Isn't it the crucial step? Fang Yuan mumbled, his gaze turning sharp. He carefully activated a mortal goo. This was a metal path mortal goo and was only rank 1. Activating just this goo alone naturally had no risks. But the situation now was different. Bam! A muffled sound spread from Fang Yuan's body. Fang Yuan's body shook violently like he had been electrocuted. His expression was pale, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corners of his lips. I failed again. He heaved a long sigh. He landed on the ground and held his chest while checking his injuries. Fortunately, I only used a rank 1 mortal goo. These injuries are not much of a problem, and there is no need to use man as before. I will recover in a couple of days with the sovereign immortal body's recovery speed. Fang Yuan was attempting to further improve the killer move Vajra Shell. Immortal Killer. Move Vajra Shell used rank 6 Vajra. Thought as a core, Fang Yuan had relied on this killer move and strategy to defeat Xia Clan's Gu Immortal, Xia Fei Kuai. After the matter, Fang Yuan had felt this killer move was still not satisfying enough and still had room for improvement. Fang Yuan paid attention to this feeling. He knew his wisdom path and transformation path were both at Grandmaster level. Such a feeling did not emerge from nowhere and had great value to him. Unfortunately, although I have made some progress over these days, there have been little to no results. It seems my attainment level is still not enough. I can only let it be for now. Fang Yuan let out a sigh. In fact, his speed of progress was extremely remarkable compared to other Gu Immortals. In the past, Vicious Lightning Fiend had used up several years to deduce the immortal killer move, Lightning Deity. He was not even at 10% of Fang Yuan's current speed. However, it was also a wise choice for Fang Yuan to give up. Because he had a way to rapidly raise his attainment, as long as he raised his attainment levels, he could improve the killer move Vajra Shell at once. After Fang Yuan's transactions of Dragonfish, his financial condition had improved, and as such, he had spare energy to try modifying immortal killer moves. Deducing an immortal killer move was actually very resource-consuming. For instance, if the attempt failed, Gu Immortal could suffer backlash and be injured. Goo worms would also be destroyed and would need to be replenished. And if immortal goo were damaged, that would be even more troublesome. But if the attainment level was enough, the killer move could be improved at once, saving large amounts of time, effort, and resources. Fang Yuan's attainment level barely met the requirements of improving Vajra Shell. Although he could improve it, he would have to pay quite a heavy price. He thought it over and resolutely gave up on this small project. After resting for a while, Fang Yuan activated his goo worms and sent his divine sense into Treasure Yellow Heaven. Inside Treasure Yellow Heaven, his divine sense moved nimbly and reached a Gu Immortal's will to converse. I will pay 1,300 Immortal Essence Stones for all your divine deer fruits. Fang Yuan spoke. This Gu Immortal will shook its head and said helplessly, "The price I quoted is already low. You have already come here 3 times. If you really want to buy, add 200 Immortal Essence Stones and you can take them away." Divine Deer Fruits were rank 6 Immortal material. It was not a rare Gu material, but there were few people who sold it because there was not much demand for it. Fang Yuan, however, needed it to feed Vajra Thought Immortal Gu. He had obtained Vajra Thought Immortal Gu and had to solve its feeding problem. Fang Yuan did not reply. Instead, he sized up the products. The divine deer fruits in this stall were of good quality. Fang Yuan had strolled several times around Treasure Yellow Heaven and had found the divine deer fruits here were of top quality. The price was also quite reasonable. Thus, he had visited this stall several times. Divine deer fruits were about the size of a baby's fist and did not grow on trees or plants, instead growing on the antlers of a type of deer desolate beast. Fruit deer. It was a deer that bore fruit. Fang Yuan had already inquired about the specific name of this desolate beast, and also saw them being sold in Treasure Yellow Heaven. However, even if he bought a batch of them, the number of divine deer fruits they could produce was a question that needed to be explored. Any resource had its own cultivation methods. For instance, Fang Yuan's dragonfish production was not a result of casual attempts, but was from the insights and experiences of Dongfang tribe. This was the accumulation of a super tribe. As a result, Fang Yuan's dragonfish were of the best quality, and the production was also smooth, giving higher profits while requiring slightly lower capital. I should just buy a portion of divine deer fruits for now to deal with the first feeding of Vajra Thought Immortal Goo. When I have sufficient funds in the future, I can consider how to raise fruit deers and be able to be self-sufficiently provide for Vajra Thought Immortal Goo. As for whether I can turn this divine deer fruits production into another source of income, that would depend on future opportunities. Fang Yuan pondered while communicating with that Goo Immortal Will. Then, let me check again. But at this time, the Goo Immortal Will in front of Fang Yuan suddenly shook and spoke. My main body's divine sense has entered. He says he can discuss the price with you. You should talk it out between yourselves. Saying this, the Goo Immortal's will took a back seat. Fang Yuan was overjoyed. He was waiting for this situation. The Goo Immortal who was selling the divine deer fruits had left the divine deer fruits in Treasure Yellow Heaven, and also left a will to look after them. But although this will could think and communicate, it had to strictly abide by the bottom line price set by its main body, and this was not negotiable. But now that the Goo Immortal's divine sense had come over, Fang Yuan could properly communicate with him about many things. There were many contents up for discussion. I want the divine deer fruits to feed Immortal Goo. If we can reach a consensus, this absolutely won't be the last transaction. How about it? I will offer 1,300 immortal essence stones. Fang Yuan started to negotiate. The Goo Immortal hesitated. This is our first interaction. How can I believe you based on just empty promises? Forget it. We can reach a deal for 1,400 immortal essence stones. Once we have transacted 3 times like this, the price can be lowered to 1,300. What do you think? Clearly, this Goo Immortal was not foolish and was quite astute. Fang Yuan refused. If I had ample funds, I would not be haggling with you like this. How about 1,350? That Goo Immortal forced a smile. All right. If not for my urgent need for funds and the fact that these divine deer fruits are selling slowly, I would not have agreed to your price. One gave the money and the other handed the goods. Fang Yuan let out a sigh of relief after the transaction was completed. The feeding problem of Vajra Thought Immortal Goo was settled for the moment. Now it was Divination Tortoiseshell. Immortal Goo's turn. This Immortal Goo fed on kelp. Naturally, it was not common kelp, but ancient ink kelp, which was a rank 6 immortal material. This kelp was complete black like ink, and when its skin was torn, it would dye the surrounding water into pitch black ink. Fang Yuan was currently short on funds, so he intended to purchase and store some ancient ink kelps to feed Divination Tortoiseshell Immortal Goo. He would consider more in the future. In the aspect of food, Day Immortal Goo was much more pleasant. Because it fed on the water of the river of time, there was no need to think about obtaining its food. In comparison to divine deer fruits, there were many more sellers of ancient ink kelps in Treasure Yellow Heaven. But Fang Yuan was not able to make a deal with any of them. The issue was the price. But he was not in a hurry. There was still some time left before the next feeding of Divination Tortoiseshell Immortal Goo. Fortunately, Dragon Scale Sea Area's construction is finished. As long as it continues to develop like this, I will have plenty of funds in the future. Next is the construction of coiling thread caves to produce regretful spiders on a large scale. Fang Yuan had considered it. The market for regretful spiders was huge, especially over in Western Desert. Although the demand was not as large as dragonfish, it was still a lot. But for the moment, Fang Yuan was tight on funds and needed some time to accumulate his wealth before he could start this project. According to this situation, I estimate that it will be over a month before I'm able to gather the first sum of funds and start on the construction of coiling thread caves. Hopefully, Wu Clan would have stabilized by then and would let me return to the giant dream realm. Wu Yihai's identity restricted Fang Yuan's freedom. Especially under the current situation of Wu Clan, it was not good for him to voice out his intention. Over the course of this month, Wu Yong had led Wu Clan to deal with the problems created by the various superforces. There were losses and gains. Wu Clan's prestige sank, but in truth there was not much damage to their benefits. Thus, this situation was still continuing. Wu Yong wanted to regain their reputation, while other superforces were not satisfied and wanted to seize some material benefits. The confrontation between righteous path forces was different from the demonic path. Confrontations in the demonic path were fierce and violent, while righteous path confrontations were light like drizzle and often lasted for a long time, especially when it was a confrontation between super forces with huge assets. It was difficult for them to fight against each other without reservations. They would not fight to the death. Fang Yuan's idle cultivation lifestyle did not last for long. Some days later, he received another task from Wu Yong. Mount Snail, mountain-moving old monster? Fang Yuan's brows slowly started to furrow. It was not that he did not have the confidence to complete this task, but the current trend of situations was not looking good. Previously, though Fang Yuan had resolved Frosty Peak's matter, he had in fact withheld his strength and methods, obtaining a barely passable result. He had only created an agreement of 5 years and had plundered the resources of Frosty Peak. Although this was an unwritten rule of the righteous path, he had touched the bottom line. This was naturally Fang Yuan's intent, to leave a bad impression on Wu Yong. Higher-ups did not like using such people, and if they sent Fang Yuan away to the Supergoo formation earlier, it would match Fang Yuan's wish. But Wu Clan was indeed short on manpower at present, while its territory was too large. A matter concerning Mount Snail had happened suddenly. Wu Yong had no choice but to use Fang Yuan to deal with this problem.